Thanks for making it out today. Welcome to another installment of MSP Webinars. I'm Steve Taylor. I am the host, and I have with me Matej from Autotask Endpoint Manager. And he's going to talk to us about the best practices for Windows patch management. Now, obviously, as an AEM employee, he's going to give us the Autotask take on it. He's going to show us how to set things up in Autotask Endpoint Management to properly configure your policies and all that type of stuff. However, we'll be able to ask him whatever questions we want when it comes to patching and other types of things when it comes to that type of stuff for best practice. And even if you're not an AEM user, you're going to walk away learning something here today. So with that said, I'm going to pass it over to Matej. If you could kind of educate us more about yourself and your role over at Autotask, that'd be great.
Okay, will do. Thank you, Steve. Welcome everyone. So, like Steve said, I'm Matej Smit. I'm currently the Director of Product Management for Autotask Endpoint Management. I actually ended up with Autotask after the acquisition of CentralStage. So I was with CentralStage, the RMM product, before Autotask, which was then a fairly unknown product based in the UK. I immediately fell in love with the platform and the technology. I'm really a product kind of guy. I actually, before CentralStage, I came from Kaseya. I was there for 8 years as one of the early folks over there. CentralStage to me was everything that Kaseya was not. Anyway, I've been part of CentralStage since the acquisition, seen it transition into Autotask Endpoint Management, significant growth and everything. Product has come a long way, and over the last 2.5 years, I've been running product. So that means all the new features that we design and prioritize, they come from my team and myself. So we design them, we work on them with the engineers, and then we ship them. So we've been working really hard in the last couple of years to what we call filling the gaps. The platform was really solid with CentralStage. But there were some key features that were missing. So over the last couple of years, we've been doing a lot of things around network management and monitoring and patch management and antivirus integrations, remote control, a lot of things. And the next big thing that we're working on right now is what we call the reporting release. So anyway, making the core of the RMM product better. And I generally, like over the last 15 years, I've been working pretty much exclusively with MSPs. So I've probably visited about 1,000 across the world. I'm Dutch myself, but I've been traveling the world many times over in the last years, 15 years or so. So I had a chance to look into the kitchen on how MSPs operate, or I was involved in implementing technologies, coaching them how to get better. So anyway, today that's like we decided to focus a bit more on a single topic, patch management, which is of course only part of what we do with endpoint management. But I think like Steve said, like I'm happy to take any question and pretty much talk about anything AEM related if you're up for that. So what my plan is, and when I spoke to Steve earlier in September when we met in Miami, we talked after a patch management presentation. So we decided let's do something with patch management, since it's such a current topic right now. Everybody deeply cares about that more than ever, and it should have been on like top of the list already for years. But still, we learned that a lot of people still haven't figured it out. But also, Microsoft has made significant changes. It's pretty much a moving target for MSPs and also vendors like us. So today, let's talk a bit about what Microsoft has done, what they've changed, and also how we do that with AEM. How do we allow you to control patch management with AEM? But also, we do see a lot of customers, a lot of people that or perhaps MSPs that come across a network that has never been patched for the last couple of years. How do you deal with that now, especially considering how Microsoft has changed this? So I have a few slides. I'll probably talk a bit about like the problem and what we want to do in a few slides, and then probably jump into the product, since I know you like that in these kind of sessions. So let's do it live. All right. Anything, Steve? Mm-hmm. Almost. We're getting there. I mean, the challenge, of course, for Microsoft was everybody was being quite selective on what they would approve and deny. And I mean, being like working at a software vendor myself, I can't imagine how it is for them working with so many, like millions, billions of endpoints with a different patch level. All of them were different because people would be very selective in what they would approve and deploy. It's almost impossible to manage that and support that. So what Microsoft set out to do was take that individual patch approval and deployment capability away. I mean, they're not there yet, but that's definitely the vision, right? Windows as a service. So almost like your iPhone or something, where, I mean, with an iPhone, you don't decide what security fix you're gonna deploy and approve or not. With Windows, however, because of the big legacy and because of just the complexity of it, they've never been able to get there. But so anyway, in what Microsoft started to do in August 2016, they started to work with rollup packages, and this was like a complete change of what was going on before. Everybody was like, I mean, patch management was complicated because like any single patch could break a single application, and you had to test and approve and deploy everything, every single update. But since 2016, everything that Microsoft started to deliver was as part of a rollup patch. Now, there were a number of different flavors in these rollup patches. You had the security ones. You had the security monthly quality update, which was more around everything. And then you had the preview rollups, and you had separate ones for .NET and some applications. But the point is, every single rollup had everything it was missing from the previous month. So if you look at what you need to do from a patching perspective,
right into it. I know that changes were made.
Those rollups are essential now.
Because I know
every single time you decide not to deploy a rollup in that, like in
we need to figure
June,
out, like, okay,
the July one will have everything that the June one
all the
had.
critical
So
ones.
ultimately, it's one big patch containing
because we know
a lot of different other things.
And yada. So
keeping your systems up to date
is there just like one way to do patching now?
Just that rollup package.
Or
However, I mean,
there's
definitely a but, because Microsoft had problems before August 2016. I mean, there were tons of issues, and they were the individual patches, and they are not part of the rollups yet. So, and that's the hard bit. Is there is still a lot of legacy out there, a lot of individual patches that you probably want to install and approve. The critical updates, security updates, everything. Not everything is part of the rollup patch yet. However, Microsoft is working their way back. So there was January when they started looking backwards, and every single rollup will include more historical patches. So, I mean, in a way, they're definitely doing the right thing from a security perspective. I mean, the Microsoft was, or at least Windows, and still is, of course, like the biggest target for any attacker. Very hard to keep that secure, and this definitely helps it. And it's not just for, I mean, it's more focused around end users. I think this for MSPs, this has been a tough one. These changes, especially if you see where it is going now, because patch management. Mm-hmm. It is, but okay. So there are two parts of the MSP. There's the technical side and there's the business side. Patch management was such an important pillar of the managed services offering. The fact that it was kind of complicated and it required individual approval and testing was a really nice thing for MSPs to have, right? It's a great desktop service as well. So yeah, on the technical side, it's becoming much easier. And there are still challenges, definitely, because of just the sheer size of the patch, and also like as an MSP, you have the responsibility to make sure your customers, are not interrupted, that they can do their work, they can do their day-to-day activity without having to wait like 6 hours for a patch to be installed. And that's still something. So it is still vital to control the patch process. Like, when does it happen? Where do patches come from? What patches do you install? Especially now, because the rollups don't have everything, and there's still a ton of other stuff that Microsoft makes available through Windows Update. So you can't simply say install everything. But yeah, I mean the hardest bit, the individual testing and approvals, that's going away, especially like if you look at where Microsoft is taking this. Yeah. So today, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to interrupt me. Yeah. So today, so today, when you look at your patching up approvals, it is different. It is like one of the things we've been recommending people on center stage or AEM is pretty much start over in your configuration, because of how significantly it was changed. And that's sometimes the old configuration, the individual like configuration based on like critical and actually caused for more issues than it did good. I don't think it's necessarily because of our product. It's because of how Microsoft deals with these patches. So yeah, big things have changed. The like I said, in a nutshell, rollups are the thing to patch right now, and it's only a single one, or at least one that you want to approve, because
it is tough, because now we have to learn something new.
You have different flavors of rollups.
In the same sense, isn't it going to make it easier for us too?
Are only security patches, and you have the one that has like the quality update. It has also some features and enhancements.
That's true.
And Microsoft is rolling back patches. So that's in a nutshell what Microsoft has been doing. And like this right now, by the way, is available for. It started with Windows 10. Pretty much, but Windows 10 is still slightly different. But 7.1 and 8 and Windows 2000 Server 8, the 2008 server and 2012 server and 12 R2, they're all doing this. So if you have like pre-SP1, I hope not, then you don't really have this. But again, that's what the state is right now. So it's been like, initially we thought it was only going to be for like the newest operating system. But yeah, over time, Microsoft has been rolling this back to the other platforms. Sure. Let me turn on screen sharing, and I think it makes sense to
please continue
before I really jump into AEM patching.
But then I changed my mind.
A brief introduction on AEM, because I assume not everybody knows AEM. Okay, you are sharing your screen. I think this is working, right? Excellent. Yeah, that's the product. It's not me. So AEM, Autotask Endpoint Management, is your traditional RMM, but it's cloud-based, and we started later than most products that you probably know. So that has benefits, and like the benefit of designing something in how you would do it today. Like it all runs on the Amazon cloud. It's like the way it scales, there's nothing like it. It's yeah, we actually run on the 5 different zones, regions with AWS, but it's really cool in how it works, by the way, because it's designed as a true elastic cloud. So when you look at like web traffic, we have a lot of administrators logging into the web portal. Well, then we'll have more web servers available. If we have a ton more agents checking in, and we're managing millions already, then it just scales. If it gets a bit quiet during night time, then we'll have less servers available. It's really cool in how it works. And we use many different storage facilities because you don't want everything in a big relational database. That creates all kinds of bottlenecks. So when you look at, well, one of the things we recently did was the real-time monitoring trending, what you see here. I mean, that's all stored and handled by a specific microservice. It's really cool. It's like you can't have one single piece of the system take down another bit anymore, and everything uses its own storage. We're managing about 60 or 70,000 metrics per second at the moment.
So
the system only became faster while
can you kind of show us? You said you recommend people just kind of blow up their current patch
that was my point. It's true
and kind of start
technology,
fresh.
And
do you have something you can show
that
us
has been
that
the hardest problem to solve?
You would recommend
in
here's how you guys should set this up.
We've been able to focus on features a lot more in the last couple of years, and because we solved the hardest problem first. So AEM does all these different things: audit and inventory, monitoring, remote support, reporting. But today we're going to talk about patch management. And patch management, that's all done. That pretty much relates to so many different other pieces of the product.
Yes, sir. Looks great.
You can't just have patch management. For one, patch management is part of audit initially. So when we do our audit, which happens every 24 hours, or when we install some software, we run a full system audit. So we'll capture all the hardware and software and changes, services and everything from a device, but also the patch state. So this is when AEM interrogates the Windows Update service and says, "Hey, tell me about, for this device, what is available, what is installed."
It ran on AWS,
and that it reports it back to the cloud, to the platform. That's what we see here as well. It's what is installed altogether. So we just Yes. Yeah. So we rely on Windows Update for everything. So we use the native Windows APIs for that to interrogate, and that in the end results in two different, like a big list of patches with 2 different states. It's either installed or it's not installed, because the device itself knows way better what needs to be on the device than what we can ever get from a Microsoft cloud somewhere else. So we have to interrogate the local device, and again, it reports it back to the platform, and then you can manage your patches. Now, one of the things MSPs need to do, of course, is not patch one device per one device, because that's really not efficient if you manage hundreds or thousands of machines. So you want to do it policy based. And that's what AEM was intended to do. We before talking a bit more about patch management, the foundation here is policies. Any device will have a number of policies associated with it. So you'll have, and this device has a few policies that come actually from the account level. So that means that's the top level that applies to all your customers, all your sites. And this device, this server is receiving a monitoring policy because it's a server, and it has a ton of different monitors applied into that policy. So I'll show you and then jump back. So that like this server is like we're checking physical disk and memory and CPU and event logs and services, etc. That's all part of the policy. Now there is another policy here as well. It's the patching policy. So it all works the same way. I could turn it off here, or I could turn it off on the higher level, which is ABC Demo Corp, which is the customer, the site that this device belongs to. And then you'll see that there's a bit more. There's a Windows Account Security Monitoring policy, and there's an IIS web server policy, because this server is a part of what we call the filter. So there's a filter. You'll see them on the left side. That's pretty much the foundation for everything we do in AEM. The filters are searches,
and
we apply policies.
Is this showing
to targets,
what
and
has been installed by AEM
generally,
or what is
because
installed
that's
on that
dynamic. As soon as I
computer
deploy a
altogether?
new server, it becomes a member of the IIS web servers, and it gets all these monitoring objects.
That Windows has installed.
The same logic applies to patching.
Cool.
So when you look at patch management, there is a single patch policy, and it's generally recommended to have a single policy for a device. And if one patching policy per device. That is so you can have multiple other policies, but since the policies are all targeted to dynamic groups, or you can make it manual groups if you want to, it's quite easy to make sure that there's no overlap. Actually, the one thing that I want to say here is one of the things we hear about, like from new AEM customers all the time, is that they feel that they don't see all the missing patches yet. The reason for that is because there's no policy applied. With AEM, you need to apply a policy to every single device. So we know what you want to have installed on those devices. We don't want to send out reports or give you data that that's inaccurate. So if you send a report to your customer saying, "Hey, this is the patch state, and you're missing 50 patches," they're going to say, "What's going on here? Aren't you managing this?" Well, the truth is, Windows, of course, offers a lot more patches than you really want to have installed. So these policies that we apply to devices, they will allow you to control whether or not a patch is installed, approved, or not approved. So the not approved patches will not show up in your reports, in your managed dashboards, or your missing patches list, because this is what is really missing. It's currently I don't have any missing patch for this specific device, but it's the approved list is everything that's out there that has been approved either manually or through a patch rule. So we apply it. Like, for example, the rollup package should have been approved automatically through a rule. Then it would show up here, and it would be part of the next patch run, which in this case is Tuesday and Thursday.
And when you say a single, Are you saying that we should only have one policy, or there should only be one policy applied to each device?
Mm.
Okay.
Okay. So let's dive into this policy then. And what I have here is very much a traditional policy that I recommend changing actually. So this patch policy in AEM is right now targeting all my Windows servers. And what you do is within the patch policy you both control what you want to get installed, when, where it comes from, how long it can take the patcher before it aborts, and also some other settings like reboot. So there's only a single policy that you have to maintain. So the first thing is like, is actually a schedule. So let's talk a bit about the schedule, because patches are big and machines are not always online, and that's different for a server. Right now we're looking at a server policy, so it might be different. But let's say we're looking at workstations. You can't simply rely on a policy that runs on Mondays at a certain time anymore, or on Saturdays, because like machine might be offline. So the recommendation is actually right now that you probably, unless it really interferes with like business operations at a certain time of the day, just try to install patches every day. Because the thing is, it will only try to install patches when they are available. So if it installed all the patches on a Monday, it won't have any new patches available on the Tuesday, so you won't have any interference. But that's the only way to make sure people actually install patches. For server operating systems, that's slightly different. Of course, they're generally running 24/7, so you probably want to do it in the weekend. But still, the thing there is, patches take a lot of time, and that's not just like, it's not because of how we do it. It's just that patches are massive nowadays, and they take a lot of time to install. So 6 hours.
Where do we?
I actually think it's.
I'm trying to figure out how to ask
this question
appropriately.
The
Okay,
reality is
so
you
how
can't
do we
always take
see
down a server for
what
much longer than
patches
this.
have not been denied
But yeah,
or approved?
patching, especially with the massive patches nowadays,
So
it takes forever.
how do we? Never mind. Keep going. I'll ask later after you show us more. Then it'll make more sense. Yeah, as long as it needs a reboot. Yeah. Well, okay. Not taking. Sorry. Yeah, not taking it down, but yeah, I mean, it's first of all, it's busy doing patches, of course, but also you want it to complete ideally. So this does bring me to a situation that we encounter often. The fact that no patches have been installed for a long time, and there's no way you can do everything in that short period. And so this is where a different patching strategy is recommended, and that is try to get machines to a certain baseline, which is the roll-up packages. Get that done first, because that's only a single install, that's only a single process. It's much easier to manage, and then work your way backwards based on priority. So, or at least based on the things that you care about most, which is generally security patches. So the okay, let's just jump straight into patch approval. This is the approval rule set that we can configure in AEM. So you have your different category. You have category, description, download size, KB number, priority, reboot behavior, release date. You can filter on anything here.
So you can do like, based on these rules, you can say approve everything containing like a specific type. So you can say everything that is like a driver or security update, approve that. You can, yeah, yep, yep. But you can apply the same logic down here as well. So ideally you say everything that is a driver, do not approve this. I mean, my personal rule of thumb here is never install drivers unless
so
it's
with
really
that
broken.
said, you said you don't want to take a server
because they
down
generally cause more harm than
for
does good, and
more
they
than
rarely have
6
security
hours.
issues. So it's
So
more
if let's say
block
that
them.
there are
So
10 patches that need to be
a couple of
applied
other
to a
things
server.
that you probably
I
want
mean,
to
it's
block,
it's
and
going to
what you
install
need
all
to do
10
here
and then
is
reboot it,
like
right?
anything that you say do not approve takes preference over
As long as
the
it needs a
approval.
reboot.
So everything you set here will take preference.
So why would the server be? Why would we be making the server?
What you can do
why can't
is,
I find the
and
camera?
ideally you do as much on rules as possible. So what you want to do is configure a couple of things, and the problem actually is that the rollup packages are not individually like categorized as being a rollup. So well, not all of them. Let me put it like that. So yeah. So what you want to do is come up with a number of rules, and make sure that you use or when you want to do multiple things, because a common mistake that people make is do something like this: like approve these patches. Category contains update rollups and critical updates. A patch will never be both, so it always needs to be or. What we've seen is that actually filtering on title works really well for the approval. So we just say everything that is matching these criteria, that will be approved, and everything that's matching these criteria will be automatically not approved, denied. Yeah, and but we also see this in phases. So we right now all the critical updates
like a terrible idea,
and the security updates. I would not immediately do this if you've never done patching before on a device, and the reason for that is the order of which patches install. Not everything gets installed in a certain order. So ideally, you do all the rollups first, and then have it audit the machine again, because your list of patches that you're going to install is much smaller after you install the rollup package, because some of them of the other critical security patches were included in the rollup already. So that's it's one of the things we're going to actually make happen automatically in the next update. But right now, I recommend a setup like this. Mm-hmm.
So some rollups are not actually in the update rollups category, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. Okay. So everything that is not approved ends up in the do not approve category. So anytime when you look at a device, you don't have to say that. Exactly. That's correct. So these patches, these are all drivers.
So this right here, exactly what we're seeing, is this what you are saying is a best practice
indeed,
Windows patch management
that is not
configuration
in the do not approve category. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, but I'll show you the Manage tab as well. I mean, the Manage tab, and this is a good question, but it's also a product limitation. So for this one, I actually have everything patched already, so I have no vulnerable devices. But it would correct, and that is 100% correct. So when I look at my patch policies for this account or this customer, I do have two more things I can check. So, for example,
here's where
here and
my
see what patches
question that I
will
was
be
asking
installed the next
earlier,
time.
I was trying to figure out how
I'm fully
to
patched
ask.
here.
Okay, so
or I can have a historical view of what was just installed with the patch policy. But I have currently no visibility of.
Let's say that there are 100 patches that this computer
that are still
installed.
missing.
And those could be drivers,
I'm actually happy to talk a bit about
roll-ups,
what we are working on today,
because
in many ways that's also what I do.
And we say, okay,
so if you don't mind me talking a bit about
roll-up.
what's coming next in the
we don't approve anything else,
release,
and we don't configure a do not approve. So now we let it do its thing. It installs all the roll-ups necessary.
The next release is actually, so we have 2 releases in November still. And those are a maintenance release and the big API release.
Available to be installed. They're not approved. They're not do not
release
approved.
that I'm talking about is a reporting
release. But I just want to see a list for that
that's
one
not going to be
computer.
in
What
November.
patches does it still
And as a business, we don't want to deploy a major release in December, so it's going to be next year. But it's going to be early next year, very early next year. So it's.
So you don't have to say do not approve, because it's automatically not approved if you don't approve it. Is that what I'm understanding? Okay.
With AEM, because of how we are structured, we actually have done all our deployments typically within a week or a week and a half. So that means that we generally start in Australia, and then we go.
So the do not
East
approve
Coast,
list
West Coast,
is
US,
really
and then go to Europe.
This computer could
so that's
get
the order of deployment generally.
But you've never actually
there's
approved
some time in between,
update.
So we can look at what it does on the performance
and then
side.
Is there a way to see what
on
is
the support
not
side, and
for
also for many reasons, we want everybody to be on the same level,
company.
So we can apply fixes whenever we need.
All of the
but everybody's on the same.
Is that
level.
in the Manage tab of the site?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now that's just saying that all of the approved ones have been deployed, though, right? Okay.
No, we've been quite actually really good on that side, on the AEM side. So when I send out the release notes, like the ones that are available for the next release, we generally say what we know. So software development is notoriously hard, right? It's not you can't perfectly predict when everything passes and is complete and passes QA. But we know what we're sure about. So, for example, right now, with AEM, we're sure that it's definitely going to be Q1. Right, that's 100% sure. When you look at like with less certainty, I would say, well,
but I got to ask,
but
when is the next release?
That all depends on what we find in QA. The thing is, we are carrying a massive responsibility with this technology. It is there are a lot of customers that depend on us for delivering their service. So if we mess up, that typically has a lot of implications for customers. So we have this mantra, which is quality first, and that this applies to all of Autotask. That big PSA release,
and is this
massive
in
a very important release.
Autotask?
We've seen it
time
grow
zone,
in size
so
over
early
time.
next year,
there was definitely
it'll be available by Q3
work
of 2019,
that was added to the scope. So there was a delay, but also that was all about the ticketing UI for PSA, and that is something everybody uses every day. So if we needed to do it better, we did. So that's where some of the delay came from. With AEM, however, we've been generally really good in keeping our promises. So when I talk about roadmap, for example, you'll hear me talk about what's in the next release, and I'll have a rough idea, or at least we communicate rough idea when it's gonna be available. And then there are other things that are planned, but you won't hear us
just
talk
how
about
long
dates because we don't know yet. That's just the hard
go from start
part
to
of
finish
development. And as soon as we get closer, we'll communicate more.
What I mean is, so remember that whole 2017.
For example, right now I'll talk a bit about
debacle,
to answer your question, what we're doing with patch management
in
that next release. But we have a whole lot more in development that I'm not really
how many
about
times
today,
do you guys say
that would only set
we're
going
to get you guys
wow, that was a long answer to your
early
question.
2018. Does that actually get delayed over and over and over on the endpoint management side?
Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate? What do you mean exactly with get them right? Because I use them every day.
UDF field that you put into AEM, you cannot call from a component. Mm-hmm. It shows up as blank.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between probably what it was intended to do and what you're using it for. And that doesn't mean we're not going to do anything with it, but I see your point. So what you want to do is have something like, let's say I'll take a device here. So I have this user-defined field, which currently is populated by a component. Probably runs every day, and then it writes it back to a registry key, and that is automatically populated into AEM, and it's also synced to PSA.
Maybe I said the term wrong. Site variables are not read from components.
Yeah. Okay. So indeed, I wanted to get to the variables. Because the variables and the UDFs are two separate things. Yes, I
said it wrong. I meant site variables, which work fine in scheduled jobs and components that are run on demand. But if you pull it from a device monitor, component monitor, it doesn't work.
Okay, so right. So what you okay? This started off as like components are completely broken, and now it's like indeed. And this is true, and this is not a. So what you say, the component monitor doesn't have access, or at least doesn't get populated with the variables that you set here. And I've seen a case for that internally, and
so
I'm happy to look when we're gonna
I appreciate
update that, and perhaps
now
that is in the
with
next
the
maintenance
things that you
release
have in
already.
development,
But it's been flagged, and
can
we're
you
gonna
please
make sure that
just tell
monitor
me,
components will get access to
Now
this.
it
you
would
guys
make
ever
things
going to
so
get
much
these UEF
easier
fields working
for so
right
much
with
automation.
components?
Well,
So I have had a problem in the past where on the site level,
yeah.
I have created some UDFs. Oh, Brandon says, let me talk. Let me make him, not make him, let me allow him to speak. There we go. All right, Brandon, I just gave you mic and webcam permission.
Let's hope all the machines are on at 7 a.m. when I push this scheduled job.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, I'm sure. Like I could talk about some, perhaps with you, about some alternate solutions here around how you could potentially do it right now. But it's been flagged. I'll look into our systems after the webinar, and I'll let you know when that is gonna go out. The other thing is, I mean, you can definitely set up, like, if you only want to run it once, because like the component monitor runs every few minutes. Isn't that like a waste of resource? I wonder.
No, not the machines aren't always on. No.
Well, yeah, but you have the expiration setting in your job schedule, so you can say run this job every day at 9, but it will remain cached, like and execute when a device goes online at 11, unless you specify expiration settings. Yeah, I think. Well,
Yeah, it really would. I know personally, like I've got a couple site
What do you
variables
mean?
that I created.
It will have to, okay, so that when you look at your activity log or
Cisco
your
Umbrella
scheduled
deployment.
jobs, that
I'm
you'll
not
have a
sure if you're
record of it
familiar with
running every
Cisco
day.
Umbrella. To deploy it for a customer, it's got the fingerprint and then something else, a thumbprint. I don't know, and then each site has its own unique keys there. So I made the 2 site variables for those 2 unique keys, and I can do it where I can create a custom search, and I can say
I think it will be
search
there
for
forever. I'm
computers
going to have to double check
don't
this, but
have Umbrella.
that's. I
I
mean,
can do
jobs
that. And I can
should,
have
like, they're cached on our platform.
component
And when
scheduled to
the
run every
agent
day at
comes
3
online,
p.m.
it says,
and that,
"Hey,
I
I'm here.
believe,
Do you have
works,
anything to do?"
where it will
And
reference
then
those site variables.
the platform will say,
But as
"Hey, there's
Brandon
this job
said,
for
if
you,"
you
or
try and
perhaps
do
there's
it
this
with a
new monitoring
component
policy for you, and
monitor,
that's how that handshake
where
works.
the component monitor would simply check the computers and fix the problem immediately instead of
if I have some.
doing it as a search with a scheduled task.
I don't.
Exactly, yeah.
I really don't mind. I like having these kind of conversations, as long as the other people in the webinar are not bored with this. I mean, I'm happy to go any way you want me to go, Steve. So yeah, and like what you'll see is that even this one, look at this. I mean, I for whatever reason scheduled the job for a printer. I should never do that because it will never run it. But it was scheduled in September, and it's still scheduled. So if the printer for whatever reason decides to come online, it will get the job.
Yeah, a lot of times there's laptops and that kind of stuff.
Okay. So I mean, happy to take any other okay. So anyway, I'll get back to you on like when that
So
the variable fix
if
will
you
go out.
have
That's
expire this job
there is a
after
workaround.
and there's a dash,
what I wanted
does
to
the
do
job
is
never expire? Or does the job only run when the system is online? Because what I do is I have the job expire after a day, just because I know if I'm going to have it scheduled to run at 9 every single day,
what I'm
I'll
going to
just
do
have the
now
job in
is
there for every day.
show you a few things that we're working on. So we were talking about the manage tab, and this is the new manage tab, by the way. So I mean, since patch management is a topic, like we've been doing regular updates on patch management.
My thought
over the
was
last
if
couple of
I
releases,
didn't
but the next
have
one
the
will
job
be
expire
in our reporting release
after,
will be
if I
actually
didn't
really
change
significant.
that from a
So
dash,
one of the big things that we're doing is
would the
bringing
job
a
only
lot of
run
information
at that
of
moment,
making it available on our higher
or
level.
would the job
What I mean with that,
sit there in the list
right now,
forever
every
until
patch
that
has a
computer
state.
came online
It's
to
either
run
installed, it's approved, or it is not approved. But a device doesn't really have a state in AEM, so it has missing patches. That's what we know. With the new version, a device will have a clear patch state. It is either like at lowest level, the worst problem is it doesn't have a policy, and then you might have no data, which means typically indicates that Windows Updater is broken, or it's just not responding, or it has a reboot required. And reboot required is it should take preference over anything else because any other data
I know
that
we
Windows
tackled you
reports
with
back
something
is
that's
unreliable.
not at all
as long as
related
you
to
don't
patching,
do
so
that
you're not
reboot.
prepared for this.
There might be an install error. There's approved pending patches, or it's fully patched. So every single device will have that state, and that is. Right. Yeah, we've been. This is the. No, but we've been talking quite a bit about colors in the last weeks because it does impact us in other areas. But I'll tell you this: if you start combining red and green and orange and other things in the same pie, it looks horrible. So we're still like that's
yeah. I do see some of those are scheduled from over a month ago. So I think that kind of answers
bad should be red. Good should probably be more around the blue side. But that's. Anyway, one of the other things that I wanted to show you here is that Manage tab, which now lists about 10 machines. It will have all your machines, and you can filter them based on policy, on Windows type, Windows operating system type, and also patch state. You can filter, and you can have different columns that you can.
I got really excited. I didn't even know what that new mysterious page was.
You have here in this mock in this design is patch
the help system. I think
approved pending. But you're gonna in any device grid, like anywhere where you see devices, you can add these columns: patches installed, patches not approved, patches approved pending. So also that managed set. So this was a very long way circling back to your question. We're going to be able to show that everywhere, so you can much easier filter those devices that have a lot of missing patches or not approved patches, or sometimes when the patcher is broken, and that happens, you'll see that in the patch state, and you'll see something like 000 here, and then like there's going to be a ton of filters that will help you with that. So you'll be able to filter on patch titles, like when they have approved pending or installed or not approved. You can filter on specific patches that you want to have on your devices, and then work with that list and do something. So right. Oh, did that answer? Is that what you were hoping for? Is that how you would like to see it, Steve? By the way. Okay. Yeah. So. Mm-hmm.
Can we have fully patched be green instead, maybe? Because red seems like error. I know it's not company colors, but
Ken is here. Amazing. Yeah, he's a colleague.
yeah. Okay.
So I'll tell. Yes. So the problem with feature updates is, and we actually see them in the patcher, and we can install them. We can Microsoft will say this patch was properly installed, but it wasn't. It will, because a feature update can't be installed on a running Windows machine. So everybody seems to be like what I mean with everyone. All the RMM technologies seem to be struggling with this, but I think we've solved it, at least for the time being, and fairly soon. And that means I'm talking about probably weeks, like hopefully 2 weeks or less. We'll have a component in the com store that will be able to install the feature update on Windows 10. It needs to be done differently. It just can't. And we're actively, like, we've been actively investigating this for a while now. It's something we still hope that Microsoft makes it available through like regular means. We're doing it. We're going to have to do it differently, and that's it's not like a limitation in our product, or for that matter any other RMM product. It's just that the patches can't be, or these feature updates can't be installed during a normal like a normal patch during normal operation hours. They have to be done through a reboot cycle.
Well, other than the colors. No, that is very, very helpful. I think a lot of people will find some use in that. Obviously, anytime we can get more information than we've already got, the better. As long as you're not giving us like information overload, but you're giving us important stuff right here. I mean, to just see very quickly the kind of state of Windows patching.
Yes,
that's super helpful.
Not in the policy, but
now,
there, for example, there
with,
is a
with that in mind,
branch
I
switcher
see some people
tool
going back
that we
and
have
forth
made available
with
on a com store
Stan
that you
Lee,
can use.
not the Marvel comic person, but someone from Autotask Endpoint Management. Yes. So he is he's going back and forth with Charles and maybe a couple other people regarding patching. So I just want to bring that up so that way we can just talk about it for
Current branch
anyone
for
that's watching
business
this on YouTube later.
Or at least that means
So
like
feature updates cannot be managed with
they
AEM.
used to be called rings, I believe. But
Correct?
the thing is, Microsoft wants you to install patches, and they're gonna force it to you whether you want it or not. And depending on what branch you are in, you'll get it forced quicker or later. So current branch for business, yeah. I have to think now. No, no, I don't know on the top of my head. Perhaps my colleague Stan knows, but I believe it's just a fixed time. It's not that it's going to be available after, I believe, 60 days or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
So
We've not seen that
I'm going to
happen
share my screen here
so
real
far.
quick.
No. So I think the Microsoft has issued
And I
updates
want to
to
share this
a
window
malfunctioning
here.
patch.
Now I've got
But that
AEM
was,
installed, so I imagine
it
that's
doesn't
why
really
I've got
matter
this
which branch you're in.
wonderful red
So
sentence here.
slower sometimes
However,
means safer. Yeah, that's one thing. So
is it possible
you,
for
instead
us
of waiting for
to
that
use
update,
AEM to change any
that
of these
instantly.
settings as far as current branch or deferments or any of that kind of stuff?
Well, feature improvements do
And
change
for
a whole
those
lot
of
of
us
things.
that are
So the question is,
not
are
as
your
familiar with
users
Windows 10
ready to
patching as
deal
we
with that?
should
Like
be,
the Windows
can
10
you
feature updates,
explain the
they,
differences between
I
current
mean,
branch and
creators of that,
the current
like they
branch for
change a lot of
business?
UI elements, and sometimes users don't really like change. So you need to prep them for it or train them, and big changes tend to break things. So they change privacy settings, or they come up with new tools,
right.
or they reset certain defaults to something else again. I mean, there's a really good reason why you want to hold off on that and make sure your business is ready and test. Like that, you really need to have a strategy for these big updates. They do tend to.
So this is like the equivalent to the slow ring. Okay. So does this mean it is like always, I don't know, 30 days or 45 days later, or is it just whenever they decide to put it into the business branch versus the regular branch? If you don't know, it's fine.
Yes. Yeah. That's well put.
It's okay.
Bear in mind that Microsoft will force it on you eventually. So yeah. So, but that's absolutely. I mean, and that's where your role as an MSP comes
And
back
during
into
the
play
time
again.
in between
It's
current
making
branch
sure
and
the
the
impact of
business
an update like
branch,
this is minimized,
or
and
fast to slow
there
ring, or
might
whatever you
be
want to
a ton
call
of third-party
those of
applications
you.
that are not ready for this new feature update,
Are
etc.
they? I
So
imagine
training,
that the
testing,
reason
yeah.
for that is so that way the business people can make sure they're getting a patch that's not going to break things. Is that a fair assumption? And does that mean Microsoft will modify the update between current branch and current branch for business if there are issues?
So I don't think our current component does that at the moment. The truth is,
Okay.
these kind of settings, they have been changing with every single release. Um, mhm.
Got it.
So it's probably the same
Okay.
thing
And then,
for us. Like we have this
is
component in the
there
console.
any reason we
I'll
would
make a
want to
note, make sure
defer
we
feature or
reinvestigate that.
quality
But
update
the problem
performance?
is, like Microsoft is moving the goalpost, and I mean they've been actively thinking and working on their patching for the last years. So, but that specific component, for example, it needed to work on many different Windows operating systems, or Windows 10 versions. So, but
Sure.
yeah, I'll make a note, make sure we add some capability for that. Yeah. Smart.
So,
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like what you're saying is, as an MSP, it
Peer-to-peer
may
file
make
sharing.
sense for us
Sorry,
to
I have a hard
defer
time reading
updates
your
for,
screen. I'm looking.
let's
Um,
call it 30 days.
Yeah, this is
That way
so
we
this is
can
peer-to-peer
spend that
file
month
sharing of the
going
updates,
through the changes in a feature update, documenting
yeah, I mean, I
them,
think it's a great
and
feature.
coming up with a
We
way
do
to
have a way
educate
for you to
all of our
control it.
clients.
Turn it on, turn it off if you want to. But I don't see a reason why we don't want to do it.
this
We have local
section-
caching in the product. But if you
Right.
just
Once
rely
I
on Windows
assume
10
once
in your
that
network,
deferment period
I
is
mean,
over,
by all means,
they
rely
will
on this
just
one.
force it.
It's simple.
Right.
Yeah, then you probably don't need any local caching. Then this is fine.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. And is there a way for these two sections here to be modified via AEM or script? So we can change the number of days an update is deferred without having to go to each individual computer. Okay.
There have been certain updates, like a flash security fix here and there.
That's very true. This current
in the Windows
this the
Updater
spring
API,
update
so
I'm
when
on,
we interrogate
maybe?
Windows, it will
Maybe
return
I'll
that,
look
and that's what we classify under applications. So there is definitely
that is when this whole thing
quite a bit in
changed
there.
already, so I get
but
it.
it's not a third-party patching alternative. So there, it's yeah, I wouldn't rely on it like for keeping your third parties up to date, because it's not really clear what is exposed there. At least like when I look at what we with AEM get back from the API, it is an occasional flash patch, sometimes Java here or there, but Skype for Business, that's sure some Microsoft products, but there are some third parties in there. But yeah,
and maybe there's a way for you to just say as long as they're running version 1703 or whatever
so
I'm on, then make this change. Now looking at this page here, I mean, I like having this on with PCs on my local network.
Office
I just feel
2016,
like it's going to reduce my
so not
bandwidth.
365.
Do you have any recommendations for this?
I believe that's all Windows updates still.
AEM
365 is a separate updater. They're just not. They work very differently.
Sorry.
So the Office update, when we interrogate a device, will show up and will show up as a missing or like a proof patch. Absolutely, yeah. Go ahead.
I want to say 90% or more of my clients are all Windows 10. So. Now, finally, and again, this is probably different versus in all the various feature updates or whatever you want to call them of Windows 10, but the current one has the give me updates for other Microsoft products when I update Windows. Now, I recall seeing Stan say if it's not in the Windows Update API for like Office and Skype and all the other Microsoft products. Is that correct? Am I remembering that correct?
We do see them. We do manage them. They're easy to deploy. They don't require a reboot. And if the tool prevents something, it's worth it, right? The malicious. I mean, I've not seen it been very successful in the field from that perspective, but there's no also I've not ever heard of any occasion where it caused an issue. So there's virtually no downside of installing them. So from that perspective, I would go ahead and install them. Yeah. Doesn't really make your machine secure yet. Patching does. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how do you, with that said, how do you manage Office 2016 updates, for example?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. I see Stan mentioned it doesn't contain support for Office 365 updates. I would assume we're okay with that since those have their own update system built into them. But anyone that buys like the volume license version of Office 2016 or even 2013, if you have any of those out there, that would be when I would want to make sure I'm able to manage those patches. The same goes for what are your thoughts on some of those other updates that Windows has? Like, what's that one? Malicious software component tool and all that kind of stuff. Do you guys manage those patches?
Yes.
And two, do you feel like they are valuable, important patches to deploy?
It is, and that's a really good point, by the way. Especially if your estate grows, you really don't want to do individual patch approval. The list becomes massive. So this is more you intended to do individual overrides. So there is this one patch that meets your approval criteria, but you really don't want to get it installed because it causes an issue or something like that. So then that's when you select it and you deny it. You do not approve it.
I'm not going to argue that point at all. Okay, but some people just like that warm and fuzzy feeling, you know. So with that said, I just kind of want to recap what you've said when it comes to configuring a patch policy. So would you mind? I'm going to make you presenter again. Would you mind sharing your?
The
patch policy
confusing
screen?
bit, and that's I understand that is this is actually not related to the patch approval here. So this is literally every single patch that is available. And if you override it, it will move from the available section to the approved or not approved
So I just
section.
want to clarify. This is not. This here, you're suggesting we do it in like a stacked method. So you would say first, before you approve anything else, go through and make sure title contains rollup is approved. Apply it, let it run, let the computers reboot, let them audit again.
Yeah.
And then if you scroll down some, that section there, configure individual patches, where that says available, is that telling me what I was asking before, where maybe it's not at the site level, but now it's at the whole organizational level for my MSP? Is this showing me all of the various patches that all of my endpoints combined could have installed? Okay. So here is where we can go through and look and say,
I respect it. I think
here's one that
this
seems
is something
important.
we've discussed,
and instead of checking the little box here, maybe
we're going to make approvals
would just go up
a bit easier.
to the
challenge
list
here
and,
is that
find a way
AEM
to
doesn't
automate
necessarily
that.
know,
Because I imagine you don't want to
all
check
dynamic,
these
it's all based on
boxes.
filters.
That's probably
So
counterintuitive.
but we could do a better job calculating here and showing you what you want to see. That's true. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then my next question, I assume
Right.
it's because you just in the last hour or so modified this and your endpoints haven't had time to audit themselves. Because I'm seeing at the top of this list, there was a driver and a roll-up in the available section.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ah,
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
got it. So my personal opinion, and I could be an idiot and everyone else thinks you guys are doing it right. I don't know. But my personal opinion is, if you wouldn't mind scrolling down again, available should show us all of the patches that have not been approved or not approved. And then based on the selections up top, these things should like almost move around down here. And I understand that would take a lot of work to make it all happen in real time, but maybe after you save it and refresh the screen, then it would allow you to see an update. I'm not asking for magic, okay? But I guess I'm just asking for a little bit more logic for me to understand, all right, let me look through this list and see what have I missed, because I want to make sure if I truly don't want patches to get deployed, I want to make sure they're in that list of do not approve.
Yeah. So enhanced approval of patches, that's been on our list for, and actually we wanted to do that in the big patch release, but we decided against it back then because of like we wanted to get it out pretty much. But that's definitely still on the list. So when we, I mean, that's like, we're never going to be done with the RMN, but the
and maybe it's
like
not under
we
the configure
focus
individual
on
patches
refactoring the
section,
core,
because
making it better.
I understand
every
where
single
that
time.
section does
And
have
I do believe that this is something we'll be able
but
to
I guess
do.
I'm just thinking big
In the next
picture.
couple of releases.
I would love
So,
to see and I
patch
don't want to see all the
approval,
patches that
especially
exist
if you
forever.
start,
I don't care
like
about Windows
we have the
XP
ambition
patches
to do
because I
more
don't
with
manage a single
third-party
XP
patches as
computer.
well to
But I would
manage
love
that
to see
in a different
here's all
way.
the patches
So
that
like
all
you
of
say,
these
you do
computers
want to get
don't
that satisfying
have
feeling
installed
of like
for
I have
whatever
it under
reason,
control. I know
and then
what was
and then
released
be
this
able
month, and
to say,
I know
okay,
that I've
let
approved
me
it or
go
denied
through and
it
approve,
because of
deny whatever I need
reason
to
X, Y, Z.
do to these patches,
So
preferably using
I
the
understand exactly what
patch
you say.
approval
You
rules,
want to
and then be able to kind
see
of
what you've
see that
like
list
what is still out
shrink
there,
as I continue to
what
approve
is
and
not
deny the
taken care of.
patches. I
Managed by
guess I'm just
exception.
thinking I
That's
should
what we want to do
see
with AEM.
some type of
So you
progress
don't
so
want
I
to
can
see everything
truly
that's right or
understand
doesn't require attention. You want to see the
where I
things
stand.
that
That's
do
the
require
one
your
thing that I
attention.
felt like SolarWinds does right. The GFI Maxdog Logic Wins, that one. Yeah, so their patch management, as much as it fails because patches fail for whatever reason, a lot of times it's the ones that require the user input or whatever. It was nice to open a window and see, okay, these are all the patches that I've just not done anything with yet. And I could select the patches and just click a button that said all servers, approve, deny, whatever I needed to do, and then just be done with it. Like I knew I had my list, and once that list was empty, I knew I've handled every single patch. And that's probably overwhelming for people that are using a real RMM tool like this, because people like on a tool like this are typically not going to have the 20, 50, 100, whatever, like a lot of people on GFI have. Not to say that there aren't large accounts on GFI. I just feel like there are a lot of smaller growing MSPs that start off with that. Whereas this tool I feel is up there with the LabTech and Kaseya and Enable.
Mm-hmm. Well, they've been so around for like, I don't know, a decade longer, like from the XP era. So yeah, that comes with both good and bad things. So sometimes you wonder. I know these applications quite well, of course. Like what's next? And if you have all the bells and whistles, it also adds complexity. So I don't think the market needs another LabTech or Kaseya. The market is looking for something else. But what AEM, well, like the potential of AEM is huge, and what it can be, that will become clear, I think, in the next year or two, because we've been focused on making sure we have at least parity, and we do some of the more important things well, like monitoring, network management in the last release, and there's stuff we can do better even with patch or reporting. There's so much we've been able to do already, but because we can actually, because of how the platform works and how our engineering team works, we can grow really fast also on the feature side. So we've been chipping away on those things that people
does
really like about a LabTech or
have
Kaseya,
any questions?
While still doing
or
it
Stan,
in our way.
Would you like me to give you,
which hopefully is like generally more
and,
like it's simpler, it's easier to understand, more logical.
If you want to add any points
So
for any reason,
anyway, it's like there's still
I told you
there are certain features that these solutions have, but I think the list of things that people really miss is very small nowadays compared to what it was 2 years ago. So would love to always hear more feedback, and that's how we get better.
I feel like I've learned a lot.
I
I
really
feel like I've gotten some clarification on things with AEM.
Customers. So Steve, I mean,
honestly, I would love if we could do
these kind of
like
sessions.
10 more of these,
So we'll have to
have like
set another one
a
up.
session on each little piece of AEM, because I'm not going to lie, like I've had some growing frustrations with AEM, just where I feel like it's not doing what I need it to do. And then I do a session with you on this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, AEM is freaking amazing. I need to stay on this thing and see where all of these releases go, because I see so much potential, but obviously it's not toe to toe with LabTech and Kaseya as far as overall functionality of the RMM. I think you would agree with that statement. I think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That's nice. I'll have to look into that one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Well, I'll tell you one thing about components, and it is true. So the engineering group runs the product, the engine, and components are what we, and like monitoring policies that we have in the com store as well, we consider content. So you don't need to be an engineer to write a script or write a monitoring policy. Actually, it generally works if an engineer comes up with that, because it requires deeper understanding of what our customers need. So
lab tech plugins
different people work on these components, but we also work with them on them with customers.
I mean, it's not
So,
like they're some big secret. One is called
I mean, we have very smart customers, and the components and how they work are
really cool,
flexible. They're very powerful. So if you have something that you feel deserves to be in the com store, share it with us, and we'll test it. We'll run with it, and we'll make it available to our customers. So
there's another one called Patch Remedy, which I honestly don't truly understand it, but from what I've gathered, Windows has different versions of the Windows Update Installer application, and Patch Remedy looks to see what version is on everyone's
computer. We have no short-term plans for a community com store. It's something we've discussed, but there's some big risks and obvious downsides with that.
So I don't know if,
right now
there's
tend to
opportunities for you guys to
have
create that kind of stuff.
a community.
The
We're actually
operational
launching a new
cybersecurity
community
one,
very
third
soon
wall,
as
that one's
Autotask,
really
where
cool because it's more than just
components
saying,
are a big part of that, where we interact
here's
as
a
AEM
script,
with our
it's
customers,
going
and we
to,
put them in
for
the com
example,
store.
disable USB
We
flash drives to be plugged
there
in.
is a component exchange as well outside of our
Theirs
control.
takes it a step further, and every 5
But
minutes when the agent
thing
checks
is, with
in,
everything that's in the
it
com store,
verifies that
we
the
keep it up to date and we
script
support
settings
it.
have not
And our
been
support
modified.
staff
And
fields
as long
questions.
as they haven't,
They
it
have to
gives you a
troubleshoot
little green
issues
light.
because
And if
it's in
they
the com
have
store.
been modified, it fixes them.
It's very
So
hard to make
that
it,
you can
even if
prove
there
to
is a
your customers,
disclaimer,
not only
to
have
make
we
it so
made
that our
these
support
changes,
people don't have to
but
support
they
that,
have
because it still comes
stayed
from our
in
product.
place. And that would
and again,
help
it's
with
and you see this with
like HIPAA
other app
and
stores
PCI
nowadays as well.
compliance and
What
all
if
those other
one
different regulatory
account gets
compliances
hijacked
where
and something
if you say
now
this has
contains
to be done
malicious
in the
code?
organization, and
How
an
do you
audit's
check? How
done,
do you
and
check
then
for that? How do you
they
control
fail the
that? There's a
audit,
whole
then you get
legal
in trouble,
part of
right?
that.
So this just
For
helps with
the
those
time being,
audits.
we said
Obviously,
we're
these
gonna
things are
control com store.
more like
We're
a
gonna
component thing. I
make
don't
sure that
know if you
everything
have like
that
a
we
team
put in
that
here
just does
is tested
components
and we
versus a
support it,
team that
and we're going to work with our customers
site
in
variables.
communities and like through all the other means that we have available. And we're quite flexible in adding new things as if they help solve an issue for more than one customer. Yeah. The last example that we did last week, the new one was the bad rabbit vaccine, was put on our community by a customer, and we put it in the com store the same day. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And my final question is, Comstore, will you ever open it up for us to share?
You can do two things.
components with
Either
that
our
little
community,
disclaimer,
you can get to our community from
Autotask
the
didn't make
help,
this,
go to
and you can't
community,
hold us liable if
or
it
I mean, always
screws
feel
up your
free
customer
to
environment,
drop
blah,
me a
blah, blah,
line.
blah, blah.
If you my email address is msmith@autotask.com. Like, yeah, so happy to take your suggestions, and I'll forward it to the people on the team, so we can investigate it and add it to Comstor if it makes sense. Absolutely. Oh, right. Yeah, feedback. Yeah. So, but you can't really upload files. Well, yeah. So this is great as well. This comes to all of us as well. Yeah. Yeah, your email address is included in the request. Yeah. Okay. No, thanks for the work you do. I mean, yeah, you do a lot of great things for the community. So keep it up.
So with that said,
Yeah.
if me or somebody else, if one of us made a component and we felt it worked really well, would you be willing, like, could we send it to you and you could say, hey, engineers, check this thing out, make sure it's not going to screw things up, and if you like it, put it up in the comm store? Okay. So that is something that you guys will do from time to time. So what my suggestion would be, guys, is if you have a component that you think is super amazing, I think you should forward it on to